Hey there, Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting dodo birds and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. Smash the like button like you're Brandon Davies. You have consent. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, please knock that out while you're here. Today we are continuing our conference previews for the 2022-23 college basketball season. We've already done the American, the ACC, and the Big East. Now we turn our attention to the Big Ten, which is, I think, and I've made this point previously, the most totally open power conference heading into this season. I've got Indiana projected first. Norlander has Illinois projected first. Deadleg, do you agree with the idea or disagree with the idea that the Big Ten looks like the most wide open power conference heading into this season?
Looks like that might be one of my 5 storylines to touch on here for the league.
Oh, wow.
How about that?
Perhaps we should have coordinated.
That's okay. It's all right. That is all right. How about this? Let's start on this talking point, then I'll run down kind of the big stuff, big picture stuff heading in. Wide open, yes, but would you agree it's Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and then no other? Like, would you have any other team that should be in consideration for number one? Would you put Purdue there? Would you put Michigan State there? Or is it really, it's wide open in a sense of like, 1 through 7 or 8 kind of feel close together, but when you actually are, pressed up against it, pick a team that you think is most likely. Do you feel like it's one of those 3?
Do I have to remind you that I have Illinois 6th in the Big Ten? Hey, Illinois.
This is our way.
Hey, Tom Fernelli. Hey, Tom.
This is our way of reminding listeners that you have Illinois. So for you, is it a 2-horse race then? I'm just curious how you look at it from that prism.
Well, here's what I think, and this is a point I've made before. I think you could reasonably rank the top 6. I think you could reasonably assume that the top 6 schools in the Big Ten will finish in any order and probably bunch together. When I was going back and forth with Tom on Twitter, our colleague at CBS Sports, for people who might be unfamiliar, one of the points I made is that, yes, I have Indiana first in the Big Ten and Illinois 6th in the Big Ten, but I have Indiana 13th in the top 25-1 and Illinois, if it went this far, 30th in the top 25-1. So I've got 6 schools in the Big Ten somewhere between 13 and 30. If you want me to run through it, I have Indiana at 13, Michigan at 20, Purdue at 24, Ohio State at 26, Michigan State at 28, and Illinois at 30. So I just don't think there's much difference between these teams. I do think Indiana's the favorite. And if you look at KenPom, for whatever it's worth, Indiana is significantly, not significantly, but 11 spots better than any other Big Ten school. And then you get a bunch of schools sort of bunched up together. So I'll take Indiana as the favorite. But if you told me Michigan State, Ohio State, Purdue, maybe even Iowa, and yes, Illinois won the league, that wouldn't be crazy to me.
All right, obviously on the other side of the break, for those who are familiar with our conference previews, I'll run down my order. You just got Parrish's order for nearly the top half of the league. We'll compare and contrast, share notes, and obviously we'll do some quickie capsules on the teams. But that is probably, if the no ideal favorite is the biggest storyline, a 1A. 1B is to me is the bigs. And I'll run through the storylines here. GP, respond as you need be at the end. Coburn's gone. Travion Williams gone, but you get Trace Jackson Davis, Hunter Dickinson, Zach Edey, Cliff Omarui back.
What if that's why Illinois fans are so mad? They don't realize Kofi Coburn's gone.
I think they're aware of it.
You think they know that?
Yeah, they might. Although maybe I'm high on Illinois, but yes, maybe there's a.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just trying to figure it out because Illinois is 7th in the Big Ten according to KenPom, 33rd in the country. So, but you're comfortable assuming that they know Kofi Coburn's no longer there.
Very comfortable.
Okay. All right. Move on. I'm sorry.
This was a conference of bigs a season ago. That's still the case because Jackson Davis, Hunter Dickinson, Zach Edey, maybe even big old Cliff down at Rutgers could wind up, as All-American candidates, the first 3, clearly. Storyline 3 is the Big Ten's reputation fading a bit. First of all, the league caught a stray in recent days when Jim Boeheim said The Big Ten, quote, sucked in the tournament. Love this.
I love it when Hall of Fame coaches that get into their 70s, they just start saying whatever they want to say. They don't care anymore.
DGAF mode, and Jim Boeheim is permanently on 100 with that. So more of that. I have to say, Jim Boeheim, who is coming off the first sub 500 season of his own career.
Yeah, maybe not a great time to be criticizing the Big Ten.
It's called deflection, Parrish. It's called deflection.
Maybe. Hold on. I'm just spitballing here, brainstorming. Maybe Syracuse gets in the Big Ten. Jim gets his career back on track. Maybe move to the Big Ten.
Anything's possible. Boeheim was not inaccurate with what he was saying. But the Big Ten did send 9 teams dancing last season. The reason, is the rep fading just a little bit. Remember, this was a number 1 rated conference in KenPom back-to-back seasons recently. But despite sending 9 teams in the tournament, only Purdue and Michigan made the Sweet 16. Neither made the Elite 8. One of them lost to a 15 seed. 2 other headlines heading in. Maryland under Kevin Willard. It's a pretty big one. Is this going to be a Shaka at Marquette situation where he takes a really good basketball job that was in crisis and gets into the tourney comfortably right away? Or is Maryland more looking at a 2 or 3 year build under Willard? I think that's a bit of a mystery. We'll obviously have a few comments about Maryland and its team this season later on in the podcast. Willard was attached to this job the day it came open. Most believe it was privately his for like 2 months. He was on board before he actually took it. I don't know how it's going to go with Willard this season or overall, but he was certainly considered one of the 4 or 5, I don't want to call him no-brainer, but it's, successful hires when we do our candidate coaches. He landed in the top 5. Last storyline. There's actually I debated on a couple things here. I'm actually going a little bit in the weeds. I'm going to take a storyline that the hardcore Big Ten fans listening to are certainly aware of. Some might not be, but behind the scenes, like Big Ten officiating, which is it's not the Pac-12 football officiating of the sport. In fact, the Big Ten prides itself on having as good of an assembly of referees as literally any conference in the sport. It is getting an overhaul. Rick Boyages was a longtime coordinator in that league of officials, and he left the conference in what was a long, drawn-out process behind the scenes in the spring and the summer. He's out. Bo Borowski, who has been the subject of plenty of ire of Big Ten fans, he's done. He retired. So something just to keep in mind, Big Ten fans take a painful delight in disputing just how good the officiating actually is. But on the ground level, this is something that, it has real meaning, and I think fans care even more than media members about who's calling the games. They are pretty informed there. And so while that's not an obvious headline, I at least did want to mention it. When it comes to officiating games, it's a big time deal in the sport, very big for all the conferences, and plenty of change of foot in arguably the most prominent league in the entire sport this season.
So this is an interesting situation because the Big Ten is, one of the 2 best conferences, all sports considered, one of the 2 best conferences in the country, the Big Ten and the SEC. And yet it is on some level struggling in men's basketball. What Jim said was, like you said, true. They didn't do much in the NCAA tournament. You laid it out. They only got 2 teams in the Sweet 16, 0 in the Elite 8. You look at the preseason AP poll. They got 0 teams in the top 10 for the first time in a long time. I think it was 77. Is that right?
77. Yep.
Look at me. I'm going to stare right into this camera. Look at me. I was born in 1977.
Look at me. He's lying to you. 68. Don't forget it.
Feels like 68. I'm battling a severe case of the hiccups this morning. It's awful.
You know how to so far. You're good. We're 9+.
I know. I think I've distracted myself from them. I've been struggling. I struggled with them all night. Got up in the middle of the night with them, and then this morning I'm dealing with them. And then I sat down in this chair, and it kind of like, I'm okay. I'm okay so far. Maybe. What if the Ion College Basketball Podcast is a cure for hiccups?
That's right.
Somebody Google that. So you got 0 teams in the top 10 of the AP poll. And I only know this because I just did the SEC preview for CBSSports.com. We'll be doing it at some point in the next couple of weeks, I guess, on the Ion College Basketball Podcast. But trivia time.
Here we go.
How many 5-star prospects if we're calling the SEC and the Big Ten the two best conferences in the country, as it pertains to all sports, not just basketball, how many 5-star prospects did SEC schools just enroll? And how many 5-star prospects did Big Ten schools just enroll from the class of 2022?
I'm going to reverse that. I'm going to say, you might have to correct me on the stats here, because I feel like Jalen Hood,
Schifino is a 5-star prospect.
He is. So I think he's the only one, right?
That's right. One.
Okay, he's the only one.
And he's in the 20s.
And I didn't know if he was one of those things where, like, is he a 5-star 247, but he's a 4-star in the composite? I don't know.
He might. I don't
know if that is or the
but
case.
He is. I look at the composite. He's a 5-star in the composite in the 20s. Okay.
I'll say blindly SEC just brought in 8.
9.
Yeah.
They've got 9 5-star freshmen at 6 different schools. And the Big Ten only got 1. And the one is in the 20s. So I don't know that you can have a big takeaway from that, but the SEC is loading up with talent, and the Big Ten doesn't have comparable talent. And I think that's why you see no teams in the preseason top 10 of the AP poll, and the likelihood, never say never, but on paper, it doesn't look like any of these teams are going to be a national champion. Certainly they'd have to, dramatically overachieve relative to preseason expectations, which would then mean that the Big Ten will enter the next season still looking for its first national championship since 2000. Look at me. I was born in 1977.
Having said that, before we get to the team-by-team rundowns, Big Ten is coming off lottery pick Jaden Ivey, lottery pick Johnny Davis.
That's right.
Lottery pick Keegan Murray.
None of those guys were 5-star prospects coming out of high school.
So, and the Big Ten hasn't stood alone, far from it. But if you talk to coaches, particularly, not even at the power conference level, the mid-major coaches have to go against these guys. The Big Ten for a long time, almost in spite of what you might have seen where the league might have fallen in the overall hierarchy, power rankings, ratings, all that stuff. Big Ten has consistently been regarded as a top 3 league in terms of pure coaching acumen, from head coaches to assistants. And with that, obviously, comes development as well. So the league also has that. So I would be flat out stunned if the Big Ten provided 3 lottery picks again from backcourt players in 2023. It is coming off of a year where let's circle all the way back around. It was a year of the big in the Big Ten a season ago. Yes, you did have Coburn that wound up being a first-team All-League player, and E.J. Liddell, effectively a big, not the same kind of big, but they were first teamers. But it was the guards and wings who really kind of stole the show. Only Jaden Ivey was predicted to be that kind of player, and some even thought it might be Travion Williams that would be the better player. So we'll see if we can get there. But yes, pure talent right now. NBA front offices, scouts, and GMs, they look at the SEC and they see a lot more draftable players for the year 2023 than they do in the Big Ten.
How many Big Ten programs will make the NCAA tournament this season? We're going to discuss that next. But first, a word from our partners.
The UEFA Champions League. 9 months of heart-stopping, hold-your-breath acceleration. While Mbappe shines in the city of lights, Benzema's racking up the hat tricks, and the Reds want more magic in Liverpool. This ain't amateur hour. This is the best of the best of the best. This is the UEFA Champions League. Stream every match live on Paramount+.
So as noted, the Big Ten got 9 schools in the NCAA tournament last season. They were Wisconsin, Purdue, Illinois, Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan State, Rutgers, Michigan, Indiana. Can the Big Ten get that many bids again this season? Dead leg. Seems, I'd bet the under.
I won't go as far-fetched. That's hard for me to see in the here and the now. Getting 9. 9's a ton, GP. That's a big old haul. And
that's a baseball team.
That's a starting lineup right there. I'm not seeing that. Just to remind the listeners, run down again your exact order 1 through 6, because then I'm going to give you my 1 through 6. What is your 1 through 6 in order?
Indiana, Michigan, Purdue, Ohio State, Michigan State, and the Fighting Illini.
Okay. The only team we have in the same exact spot, we both have Michigan State finishing 5th in the Big Ten, which of course means Tom Izzo's going to go out and win this damn league. I'm going Illinois first. As always, willing and able to be wrong on this podcast. This could backfire and look silly 5 months from now. The Illini shared the Big Ten regular season title last season with Bucky. They lost Coburn. They lost Trent Frazier, Jacob Grandison, Andre Cabello, Austin Hutcherson. The only player who averaged double-digit minutes last season is the big Coleman Hawkins, who was a 6-point a game guy. Now, I think he is going to be one of the 3 breakout players in the conference, so I'm relying on that. And they do have there's real enthusiasm over the transfers that came in with Terrence Shannon Jr., who I think is a sneaky pick to be a first-team All-League guy, Texas Tech transfer, and then Matthew Meyer from Baylor, who has been a smidge overrated the past 2 seasons. And I want to see if he steps in at Illinois and becomes the guy this season that they were kind of hoping he might be last season at Baylor. He was good, but he wasn't as good as
he was supposed to be an All-American candidate who, becomes a first-round draft pick, and he just wasn't either one of those things.
Wasn't that. So can he be more than the 3rd or maybe 4th option? Because I think for my pick to be right, like Matthew Meyer has to be reliably a top 3 option almost every single game. The freshman to know is Sky Clark, ranked 34th in the class of 2022 by 247 Sports. He's got a freshman teammate named Ty Rogers, who might be a name to remember come midseason. As long as Illinois is still really good defensively, and I'm also banking on that, they're going to have a chance to win the league, and they'll comfortably be in the NCAA tournament. Any quick thoughts on Underwood's team that you haven't already shared?
I mean, I feel like we've talked about him so much, including on the top 25 episode that we did earlier this week, because they're outside of the top 30 at KenPom. Like I've said, I feel like a million times at this point. I like Illinois. Like I've got them in the top 30, but it's interesting because like there's a line that serves as a cutoff for people. When you do a top 25 or a top 25 and 1, you're either in it or you're not. And if you're not, it almost feels like fans think, well, we must be 150th in, according to you. No, I've got you in the top 30. I just don't have you in the top 26, but I do have you in the top 30. And I acknowledge that you could be better than that. Like I'm a big fan of Brad Underwood. I think he's terrific. And I would never insist there's no way he can do whatever with basically any basketball team, because he's really, 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 really good at what he does. One of the best in his profession. But the way it shook out, here's the thing. I think the Big Ten's got a bunch of good teams. I don't know that there's a great one, although one of them will probably end up being great. But on paper, I don't see a great one. But I do think Indiana's on paper the best. Trace Jackson Davis is awesome. I love Jalen Hood-Schifino. I mentioned he's in the 20s of the class of 2022. I'm not a recruiting analyst, but from what I've seen from him in person, I would put him higher. I think he's going to be great. He's for people who might be sort of a combo guard, but can absolutely play point. He is seen like, gets to the rim when he wants to. I'll just tell you this. I'm more familiar with him than I am most prospects because he played for Team Thad, which is based out of Memphis. Norton Hurd runs that program. It's a great grassroots program that used to be affiliated with, Under Armour, but now it's a Nike EYBL program. And I, went to a workout and with very little context, just walk into the gym and I know the names, but maybe don't know the faces. They don't have names on the back of their jerseys. I'm just watching people play basketball. And it was so clear. He was so much better than everybody else on the court. And there's other Division I players on that team. And he was just like clearly the best player in the gym. And at this point, he was considered a 4-star guy. And I remember thinking, well, that'll change after people see him at Peach Jam. And then he went to Peach Jam, was awesome, popped positive for COVID, so didn't get to finish the tournament. But I just remember there was this one game where, he went to the line. It's like maybe no time left on the clock or just a little time. High pressure free throws, and this is, I know it's just summer basketball, but like this means something to these kids. It is a pressure packed situation when you're at the free throw line, and you just knock them down. No problem. He's really composed, really talented. I think he's going to be great. And that's why that's among the reasons I think Indiana is going to be the best team in the Big Ten, and Mike Woodson is going to, for anybody out there who was skeptical that hire would work out, I think by the end of the season you're going to have to acknowledge that through 2 years, it's gone really well.
Indiana third, and GP just laid out a lot. We did a whole summer shoot around. Again, if you're an IU fan coming to this podcast and you didn't catch that, we've got a whole episode dedicated about 6 weeks ago or so to the Hoosiers. I'll just say this: the reason why I went Indiana third, I'll get to my number 2 team in a second, was 48th in Ken Pom at the end of last season, 95th in offensive efficiency, and Trace Jackson Davis is my. I don't even think he would qualify as a dark horse for National Player of the Year, but Sheboy, obviously, Timmy, probably Baycott. Those are your 3 that are going to get real consideration. If you tell me Jackson Davis wins it, I'm not going to be surprised by it. But the reason why I go third is I want to see if they get enough creative perimeter scoring around him. I just haven't seen Woodson is in his second season. So I'm very slightly fading the Hoosiers, and I'm taking a coach who's much more proven with a big who was also a unanimous selection. The only unanimous selections for the Big Ten is all league first team, if you want to call it. It's the all Big Ten team. I don't know. It's like 10 dudes. It was obviously Trace, who's the preseason player of the year, and then Hunter Dickinson and Zach Edey. By the way, there was no preseason freshman of the year. Hood Schifino would be that if there was. But Edey, and I'll go Purdue at 2. This is arguably even more daring than Illinois to win the league, but I think Edey is going to jump from averaging like, I don't know. I think he's gonna. He was 9 points a game last season and almost 8 rebounds. I think he'll be closer to 15 and 10. Now, they also got to figure out how they're going to score beyond Edey and all that stuff. They get Mason Gillis, Caleb First back, Ethan Morton back. How about this, Parrish? And I did not realize this until I started, doing my team capsules for my rankings. I didn't realize David Jenkins Jr. was on this team. This is his 4th team, my man. He was a stud at South Dakota State. Shout out to South Dakota. Then he went to UNLV with Otzelberger. Otzelberger leaves to go to Iowa State. He goes to Utah instead. Was there last season. This is his 4th team in 4 years. I don't know how much of if he hits, and I'm kind of hoping he will, or I'm banking he will. So the prediction is right. Then Purdue's got a shot. But I register this pick: Illinois 1, Purdue 2, Indiana 3. Let's toss them all in a big old bowl and see what happens. And Painter's like a top 10 X&O coach in the game. So I will go Purdue 2. Where do you have the Boilers in your overall?
I have Purdue 3rd in the Big Ten and 24th in the country. They are, and that's one where I had even some Purdue fans ask me, like, "Are you sure we're going to be that good?" They're 25th at KenPom, and I've made this point before. I just trust Matt Painter. Like, he's got a top 25 team every year. I mean, I don't want to say it doesn't matter what players he has, because obviously it matters. But like, he has shown, he's like a new version of Bo Ryan. There was a time when,
good way of putting that. I had not thought about that before, but there's a lot of credence to that claim.
There was a time where every preseason I just decided I'm putting Wisconsin in there somewhere in the top 25 and won, because like, Wisconsin was always a top 25-ish team, like always, without exception. Doesn't matter who's leaving, doesn't matter who's coming. Bo Ryan will have a top 25 team. And Matt Painter is, I think, the Big Ten's current version of that. I just trust Matt. And so, Edey's obviously terrific. David Jenkins was an awesome jackrabbit. I don't know that he's progressed the way we might have thought he would, because I legitimately saw him early in his career, and thought, like, when Mike Dahm is gone, he'll be the next, conference player of the year, all-American honorable mention type guy, if he stayed at that level. He obviously didn't, and has just sort of, I don't want to say disappeared, but I mean, I'll just repeat what you said. You didn't realize he was at. Okay, right. So
there's also God knows how many transfers. So
of course, right.
You don't see the tweet from the 3 or 4 writers who care.
No, I don't mean that as an indictment of you as much as it's just like he has kind of disappeared. But I won't be surprised if he's a meaningful Big Ten player. And like I said, I think Purdue's going to be good. We mentioned how many teams are going to make the NCAA tournament out of the Big Ten. Last year it was 9. Last season it was 9. I said I would take the under. For what it's worth, Jerry Palm has 8, going. And I think I'd have to get an explanation from Jerry on this. But if you look at his Big Ten predicted order of finish, he has, I believe, Illinois 1. But if you look at his bracket, he's got Michigan State as the best seeded Big Ten team. Michigan State is a 4 seed, followed by Indiana and Illinois getting 5 seeds. Purdue is a 6. Michigan is a 8. Iowa as a 9. Ohio State as a 10. And Rutgers as an 11 seed. So this is all starting to line up, whether it's the AP poll, top 25 and 1, KenPom, or Jerry's bracket. He's got a bunch of Big Ten teams that are good, but none of them projected to be a top 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. This is all, and I don't know if it's all lining up because one thing leads to the next, or it's all lining up because it's right. But there does seem to be a consensus opinion about the Big Ten. A lot of good teams, maybe not a great one.
My next 3 teams in order are Michigan, Michigan State, and Ohio State. I'll give you quick rundowns on each of these. We did do standalone episodes for Michigan and Ohio State. If Jalen Llewellyn hits big, I think Michigan State winds up as a ranked team for the majority of the season. Hunter Dickinson, obviously the best player on the team, most valuable. Llewellyn is the latest small conference guard who had like big production that's going to be asked to come in and make waves. Devontae Jones did it a season ago. Mike Smith, another Ivy League player out of Columbia a season before that. So we'll see. Terrence Williams is the second leading scorer on this team behind Dickinson. He averaged 4.7 points last season. Obviously, that's got to jump. You and I have on multiple podcasts in the past, however long, mentioned how in we are on Jet Howard. I would be surprised if he's not one of the 3 best freshmen in the country, and therefore a top 15 freshman in the nation. He's 6'8". He can play the 3 or the 4. A lot of promise there, and I'm excited to see him. Michigan State, I don't know if there will be another team in the Big Ten that will have a rotating cast of nightly MVPs the way that this team could. AJ Hoggard is a starting point guard. I'm in the process of finishing up my top 100 list for our master list that's going to come out soon here. It's either him or Malik Hall for the team's best player. I don't know who it's going to be. Hoggard will have Tyson Walker back again, the Northeastern transfer in the backcourt. Walker was just okay last season. Like, does he pop? Joey Hauser is still on this team. Can he get even more touches and show what he can do from a shooting perspective there? The schedule is absolutely insane for Tom Izzo, and that's even by Izzo standards. So I think there's a chance here that Michigan State does a classic Michigan State deal. It's going to take X number of losses in November and December, and because of that, it probably can't crack through to the rankings. Like, it's not ranked going into the season, and it plays Gonzaga the first Friday and if it loses to Gonzaga on the aircraft carrier, and then you've still got so many good games still after that, like Michigan State could go unranked for the first 6 weeks of the season, then we look up and it manages a 5 seed in the tournament. That's not an unreasonable potential scenario there. It's Izzo. Made every tournament since like 97. I'm not going to doubt him doing that. I don't think this is one of the top 25 teams in the sport, but I cannot get myself to convince myself that they're going to fall outside like the top overall 35. And then at 6, here's the highest ranked team I have in the Big Ten, where if you told me, yeah, they fell short of the tournament. And not only did they fall short, like they weren't even like one of the 3 or 4 on the cut line. I have OSU there. Again, I'm almost going, speaks to the coaching thing we talked about, GP, going on Holtman's track record. There is a canoe full of freshmen on this roster. Justice Suing is not one of them. He will be back. He will be key. Speaking of key, Zed Key is the guy in the middle. He's back. They've got 2 big transfers to really know about. Well, really 3. Sean McNeil from West Virginia is going to provide shooting. Isaiah Likely is from Oklahoma State, kind of a do-it-all, Swiss Army knife. I really like his game. We'll see how productive he is on offense. And then they've got Tanner Holden, who's a big-time scorer from Wright State. So I don't know what to make of Ohio State. This is almost like a default. I can't justify putting him any higher, but it's Holtman. He's done arguably more with less overall. So that's my 4 through 6 before we get to Iowa and onward. Any thoughts on those 3?
Yeah, Ohio State, I have 26 in the top 25 and 1, and it is a lot like my Purdue ranking. Like, I just trust those guys. Chris Holtman is terrific. Matt Painter's terrific. Could we look up an Ohio State is closer to a bubble team than a top 25 team? Maybe, but Holtman's always good. So I'm going to assume that they're going to be good again. You mentioned at Michigan, Jalen Llewellyn, who is an Ivy League transfer. We mentioned this on a previous podcast, but we were talking on the Michigan episode. We were talking about Llewellyn, Ivy League transfer. Can he make an impact at the Big Ten level. And I had an Ivy League coach reach out to me who was listening and said, just so you know, like, he's going to be fine in that league because he's not a quote Ivy League transfer. I mean, he technically is, but that has some labels connected to it. This guy was a top 100 high school recruit who went to an Ivy League school, and he's a Big Ten level athlete, a power conference athlete. So an Ivy League coach who has coached against this guy said he will transition to the Big Ten smoothly, no problem. And then Jett Howard, I'm higher on him than the recruiting analysts are, and I respect those guys. They see these guys more than I do. So I'm not saying that hey, somebody's crazy for not having Jett Howard as a 5-star prospect. They've seen him. Everybody who's ranking players have seen Jett Howard more than I've seen Jett Howard. But I have seen Jett Howard, and he was terrific at the Iverson Classic. He was MVP of that game. There were 5-star guys in that game. Keontae George was in that game. Cason Wallace was in that game. And Jett Howard was the best player on the court. And I've mentioned this previously, but, like J.R. Smith was there. Former NBA players were there, working out with these guys and coaching these guys and running drills with these guys. And it was really a consensus among NBA people that Jett Howard was the most NBA-ready player in that gym. And that's with guys. He was in the gym with projected lottery picks, and they were like, no, Jett Howard's the guy. And so I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I have some ideas about why he's rated lower than what those NBA players who were at the Iverson Classic would rate him or rank him. But I think he's going to be really, really good. He's super talented. Talent doesn't always lead to a successful freshman season, but he's super talented.
We both have Iowa 7 in the pecking order, GP. Is that accurate? I
think that's right. Yes. And this is one where I guess I would be most off with relative to where KenPom has thrown these teams out, because Iowa is second in the Big Ten, 23rd in the country at KenPom. And I don't think there's any human that would put Iowa second in the Big Ten, but Ken's computer did.
Team's a mystery, man. I don't know. Last season he had to McCaffrey had to move on from Garza. Got an All-American season out of Keegan Murray. This season now, Chris Murray came back to the team. He's not going to be that good. The McCaffrey brothers, Connor and Pat, are back. Tony Perkins is a returnee who's coming back. Aaron Eulis, who is, yes, the younger brother to Tyler Eulis. He's on this roster. And then center will probably be Philip Ribaracha, who's, he's solid, but like he's just not on the level of the other guys we talked about. Iowa did not bring in a D1 transfer, by the way. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. There's a few schools like that. Marquette's another one who didn't. I just don't know. Again, this is the mystery team for me. I will be stunned if it finishes top 3 in the Big Ten. I will be stunned. I don't see a roster here that can compete with some of the other ones that we've talked about on that high of a level. By nature of having Iowa 7, I actually think it's going to get to the tournament. I think it's going to get in. But I'm a slight seller overall. I go Iowa, then I go Rutgers, which Rutgers has a very good trio core. You mentioned Big Cliff, Caleb McConnell, like a top 10 defender on ball, all-around defender in the country. And then Paul Mulcahy in the backcourt. He's back. Probably going to be a top 4 defense in the Big Ten. I'm going Iowa narrowly ahead of Rutgers, and it's one of those things where I feel like we're going to get to the middle of January, and I'll be like, yeah, I wanted to put Rutgers ahead of Iowa. Why did I not do that? But predictives are saying go Iowa instead. I'm going to go 8. 9 seems like it's weird. 9 seems like way too many for me to go with the Big Ten with what it is this season.
They do have 9 top 50 KenPom teams for what top 50. Top 50 doesn't guarantee tournament. More like top 40 guarantees tournament, but they do have 9 in the top 50.
Heichel's, I really do like that Rutgers core, like genuinely, no funny Rutgers jokes or anything like that. Like I look at that team, and yes, they're going to have to fill in around those guys a little bit, but because of the defense, I'll say Rutgers, they were a first 4 team last season, weren't they? Back-to-back years, first 4. I'll say that. Big Ten sends 8. Rutgers is 8 in my overall pecking order. And then if we're going to draw a line, then I'll go Wisconsin, then I'll go Maryland, and then I'll go Penn State. You agree with 8? Are we on the same page with that? 8 teams dancing? Or are you going to go 9?
Honestly, I would have to. I think I would go 8.
Yeah.
I think I would go 8. And I would have to check my order of the Big Ten. I've got Illinois at 6, Iowa at 7, Rutgers at 8. And yeah, I think I would probably draw the line right there because after that, I got Wisconsin, Penn State, Maryland, Minnesota, Northwestern, Nebraska. Rutgers used to be. You mentioned it. You're not making any Rutgers jokes. It kind of used to be a joke situation, but now, like Steve is built that program into a respectable place, and Jersey Mike's is a real home court advantage.
It is. Yes.
Like it's great. I need to pop over there for a game. I've never been there.
Ditto. I know. I'm
like, it's just right there. I'm in New York all the time. I should just pop over.
You're not popping over. We know how this goes.
I know.
You're getting there. You're tired. You're not. There's no pop over. Okay?
No, I know. I'm not popping over. I'm just saying I should. I say I should do it. It's like everything else. Like I should stop drinking sodas.
You really should do that. Yeah.
I should go to the rack. I should stop drinking sodas. There's a whole lot of stuff I should stop doing or start doing or something.
All right, real quick on Wisconsin. Chucky Hepburn running the point. Tyler Wall. I guess Tyler's going to be the best player. I kind of feel like Chucky might be able to make that happen. Stephen Crowell's another guy that's back there. Crowell's a big fella. Another big one to note. He's a 7-footer there. Johnny Davis's younger brother Jordan is also on the team and might work his way into the starting lineup there. I just think it's going to be probably a little bit of a step back after last season. I go Maryland after that. Listen, there was a lot of toxicity around that program with the end of the Turgeon era. That's now gone. They've got a transfer from Charlotte, Jameer Young, and they've got like a veteran player, Donald Carey from Georgetown. I don't know, maybe Dante Scott's back. I actually think him being on this roster is pretty important to Maryland's chances of finishing inside the top 10 overall, but I just don't know. That's a dart throw for me. And then Penn State's one where we could look up, and I'm too low on them. There's a lot of optimism that they bring 4 out of 5 starters back. They are a top 50 team in the preseason at Ken Pom, and that almost never happens at State College. So there's a lot of reason to be pretty excited. They went 14-17 last season. It was the first season under Micah Shrewsbury. Jalen Pickett actually was a good up transfer. He was previously at Siena, a really good player, and he would register top 5 to 7 guard in the conference for sure. He's back. Miles Dredd, one of the best names in the entire sport. He is also back. Seth Lundy as well. So keep an eye, when we do these conference previews, you're trying to pick like a real sleeper, and by sleeper, like a team that most would think is not going to make the tournament, and then like it comfortably would get in. I guess that would be Penn State would be the team that qualifies there, and then I'll round out this real quick. GP, I go Northwestern with hesitation as low as 12. They don't have Pete Nance. If he was on the roster, I would definitely have him higher. I think his departure actually is significant. They get Boo Buie, another amazing name. Boo Buie's back. Chase Audee.
Got some good names in the Big Ten.
Got some legitimate names in the Big Ten. There's no doubt about it. Just don't know. Northwestern has not fared well and shown poise in close games. Maybe that can change. The only tournament run, obviously, was the only one in the program history. That was now 5+ years ago. I don't see this being a tournament team. Question is if Collins is really on the hot seat. Like if Northwestern doesn't finish better than 10th in the league, are they going to make a coaching change? Some believe that's the case. You went Nebraska last. I go Minnesota last, but it's a toss-up. Nebraska lost to McGowan's, Alonzo Verge. Like half the roster doesn't have Division I experience there. Who the heck knows? Hoiberg is 24-67, 3 seasons at Nebraska. Got to kind of get it going here. That buyout is still north of $18 million, by the way. And then Minnesota.
And what they just had to pay their football coach.
I know. I don't. Yeah, I can't tell you whether or not. Like I know, like fans of like teams that aren't projected to do well, they tune into they read the articles, they tune in the podcast because they're like, "Are you going to talk about us firing our coach?" I can't say whether or not you're going to do that. I don't. Hoiberg is owed so much money. Now, sometimes like the money just doesn't matter. And if they're really that, but this isn't a school with any kind of like legitimate basketball pride. It has like one.
What? It's a school that plays inside Pinnacle Bank. What
Exactly.
are you talking
Yeah,
about?
you just said it. You just made my case for me.
They play inside Pinnacle
Yeah, why
Bank.
don't you bring up that home record?
It used to be impossible.
I actually don't think it ever was.
There was that 1 year.
1 year. Yeah. Shouts to Tim Miles, I suppose.
Shouts to Tim Miles.
Minnesota has Dawson Garcia on the roster, which is notable because he's a native and he was good at Marquette. Complete waste of a year at North Carolina. Minnesota just, there's not a lot there. So almost by default, they went 4-16 in the league last season. Ben Johnson's in his second season. So we'll see. I think pretty clearly it's got to be Nebraska, Minnesota in some order. At last, I actually would draw a line and then get to talking about Northwestern, Penn State, Maryland, those kind of teams. But yeah, we'll both go 8 teams out of the Big Ten. Won't be the best league in the country, I don't think, but it'll still be plenty good. Home court environments are just tremendous, and I look forward to seeing if it's going to be Trace that wins Player of the Year. We actually got to get to our awards here at GP. If it will be Trace, will we pick Trace? Will it be Hunter? Will it be Edie? Will it be somebody else?
Are we doing awards right now? Is that what we're doing?
I was lobbing that wiffle ball in there.
Player of the Year, Trace Jackson Davis. Yeah. Freshman of the Year, Jordan Hood Schifino. And Coach of the Year, Mike Woodson. Indiana sweep. Did I just do an Indiana sweep?
I think you just did an Indiana sweep.
Yeah. Turn the internet on in Indiana. Things are going well.
I think you called him Jordan Hood Schifino and not Jalen. So,
oh my God, I'm sorry.
So they're about to get that internet roaring.
Okay, turn the internet off.
I'm saving you here. I will go
Jalen Hood Schifino.
I will. It's okay. It's all good.
Trace Jackson Davis and Mike Woodson. Does Mike Woodson need a third name in there?
He does. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Jalen Hood Schifino, Trace Jackson Davis, and Mike. Let's get Mike Woodson's middle name. Let's make this right.
That's what I'm looking up right.
Mike Woodson.
Bean.
It's what?
Bean.
Dean?
Dean. As in Dean Smith, yes.
Okay, so I got it. Player of the Year, Trace Jackson Davis. Freshman of the Year, Jalen Hood Schifino. And Coach of the Year, Michael Dean Woodson.
Michael Dean Woodson. And I'm going to say there will not be a school that sweeps, but I have to go Trace, Player of the Year. Got to go Trace. I think he's going to be an absolute monster. Backing up my Illinois prediction, give me Sky Clark as the Freshman of the Year. I'm picking Illinois. If I'm picking Illinois to win the league, you got to figure Sky Clark might have to outperform his overall ranking. Highly rated freshman, all the same. So I will go Sky Clark as the Freshman of the Year. And then I will go Brad Underwood for Coach of the Year. I have Illinois winning the league, and if he's able to do that, especially after losing the likes of Frazier, Coburn, Curbelo, Grandison, if Illinois does win the league, he will win Coach of the Year. So those are my picks.
I appreciate you giving those picks.
And I appreciate you giving yours.
I think my hiccups are cured. It's been a big 42 minutes for me.
It has, absolutely. Hey,
it's been a nice 42 minutes.
Let's do this again tomorrow.
Can't wait. What are we doing tomorrow? Big 12?
That's right.
Oh, I like the Big 12. They only got 10 teams. I don't know why I don't get to do the Big 12 preview. Seriously. Every time I do a preview, it's like they got 15 league members. I need the Big 12.
Were you assigned? So you must have been assigned the 15-team ACC and the 14-team Big 10. Is that what happened?
No, I got the 15-team ACC and the 14-team SEC.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
I need the Big 12. Who got the Big 12?
I think that's a Kyle Boone joint.
Yeah, I should talk this. At some point, I got to play my. Is it seniority?
Sure.
I got to play my seniority card. Give me the Big 12.
Shouts to listener / watcher Rocket. He came in here hot, just dominating the chat.
Rocket's wild in the chat.
Yeah. Is it Rocket Watts?
I think it's Rocket Watts.
Former Big Ten player, Rocket Watts. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here.
Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Hawk. Shouts to Larnell. Shouts to Michael Dean Woodson. Thank you guys once again for listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. 5 stars, a nice review. Type some words.
Before we get out of here, I got Nada had a great private chat note, and he's correct. He said, Parrish's wallet has been to Jersey more than Parrish himself, which is accurate. Forgot about that.
I have been to New Jersey.
Nada, you should have just interjected and just cut me right off. That was a good one.
I've been in New Jersey, mostly just Newark. I need to get to Jersey Mike's one night. I'm going to try to do that.
We know you won't.
I mean, I probably won't, but I'd like to think that I might. Yeah. 5 stars, nice reviews. Type some words. There's more of us than there are of them. And there's no place on earth where that's more true than New Jersey, I think.
Ooh, What's the premarital sex capital of the United States? That's what we got to know. And a capital being like a state, not an actual city. We got.
I mean, I think maybe Mississippi. I think it's probably Mississippi, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
We lead the country in everything that's bad. Like we are the best at all the bad stuff. Like we are the worst in literacy. We're the highest rate of teen pregnancy. We're the fattest. Everything that's bad, like we're unbelievable at it. So I'm going to assume, except premarital sex is not bad. You're not going to trick me.
Yeah, you almost tricked yourself.
You're not going to trick me. I almost tricked myself.
Jersey versus Mississippi.
Go put a Twitter poll up.
I feel like Florida's got to be involved.
Put a Twitter poll up. What state is the king of premarital sex? New Jersey, Mississippi, or Florida?
I'm not opposed to doing this at a future date. For whatever reason, I'm not feeling that frisky right now.
I think a lot of people
I encourage you to do this. Can you step up? Can you just step up and tweet this out of nowhere?
No, people are already coming for me.
Nada, you want to tweet this from the official Eye on College Basketball podcast account?
Absolutely not.
I think a lot of people go to Florida to have premarital sex, but I don't know if that makes Florida the capital of premarital sex.
You have to be a resident?
I think you have to be a resident. I think you have to pay.
So people are traveling to do it.
Yeah. I don't think you go to Florida to go to Disney World and have premarital sex.
I was thinking more like Fort Lauderdale, Miami, steal away to the Keys, but you're going Disney World. All right.
I feel like I had premarital sex in all those places you just named.
Okay. Let's go.
We'll see you later.
Bye.
Maybe we'll see. I mean, this could be it. We'll see you later. Maybe.